Chapter 469, Martial Soul of Divine Dragon. This chapter is updated by Novels.pl. Zhang Yuochen stopped and looked at Aox Yin. Then he smiled. I'm the group leader of the first group now, and you are a saint of the first group. Is it suitable that you call me by my name? Aox Yin's bodily movement was very skillful. She barely touched the ground as she walked through the air. When she was 33 meters from Zhang Yuochen, she stopped. If you can't defeat me, I will not accept you as my group leader and I will not follow your orders. Zhang Yuochen did not really want to fight Aox Yin, but she was insistent. She was a real headache. A man's voice suddenly sounded from a distance. Great. Strength is the most important thing in the Saint Academy. Zhang Yuochen, is your strength really that powerful? Another 4 men appeared. 3 of them were familiar to Zhang Yuochen: Xu Hai of Saint Xu Gentry, Zai Yongxi of Saint Zai Gentry, and Zuo Quling of Saint Zuo Gentry. Zhang Yuochen did not recognize the other person. However, he could feel his strong aura. Obviously, the man was a master. It was Xu Hai who had spoken. Zhang Yuochen glared at the 4 men. The power of my strength is none of your business. Zai Yongxi smiled charmingly. We are all saints of the sword technique department. And you are the group leader of the first group. You represent our sword technique department. If you are weak, every saint in the sword technique department will lose their pride. Xu Hai nodded and said, Junior Sister Apprentice Ao is the princess of the Divine Dragon and half-human clan. She has a half-dragon body and her sword technique realm is profound. I think she is qualified to fight with you. Zhang Yuochen, you are looking down on her if you refuse. Aox Yin said, Zhang Yuochen, if you can defeat me, I will accept your position as group leader and follow your orders without a word of complaint. Zhang Yuochen stared deeply at Aox Yin and sighed. Alright, since all you want is a fight, let's fight. Aox Yin was too simple-minded. She did not know that she was being manipulated by the disciples of powerful saint families. Zhang Yuochen had to fight with her, lest she continued to be used by them. Her beautiful face revealed an expression of joy. She immediately circulated her genuine chi and pulled out the blue water dragon patterned sword. She pointed it at Zhang Yuochen who was standing opposite. The blue water dragon patterned sword appeared to be made of green crystal. The whole sword was transparent and green. Pieces of dragon scales on the surface of the blade made it unusual. Zhang Yuochen did not despise Aox Yin. She had been able to enter the first group of the sword technique department in 3rd place. It showed she had powerful strength. Glang! The abyss ancient sword flew out of its sheath with a black light. It suspended in front of Zhang Yuochen. Aox Yin's eyes constricted. He really has reached the realm of heart integrated into sword. Aox Yin activated inscriptions in the blue water dragon patterned sword. Suddenly, waves appeared from the center of the sword and swooshed like a stream flowing around her body. From sky to earth, she jumped and crossed the water curtain. Her sword broke through the air and attacked towards Zhang Yuochen's glabella. She was displaying an inferior class ghost-level sword technique. The Sky Sword Technique. It could be seen from the power of her sword movement that her Sky Sword Technique had already reached the succeed. The power she showed was as strong as that of Lu Fanshan and the Orange Star Emissary. Zhang Yuochen looked very calm. With a flick of his arms, the abyss ancient sword flew out. Swoosh. The sword movement seemed to be casual, yet, it actually took a mysterious sword technique skill that brought out the 36 sword shadows of sword chi. Each shadow was a variable, which meant the sword itself contained 36 sword technique variations. Zhang Yuochen broke Aox Yin's Sky Sword Technique. Zhang Yuochen did not stop. He immediately executed a second sword technique. He took a step forward. The abyss ancient sword was already at Aox Yin's chest. It was easy to see the sharp sword chi on its tip. Aox Yin's facial expression changed. She immediately unleashed her martial soul. Her wu, a loud dragon's roar came from her body. A blue light column rushed out of her head. It condensed into a dragon-like illusory image. Like a blue mountain, it wrapped around behind her. Aox Yin's martial soul turned out to be the Divine Dragon martial soul. Only a dragon from the Divine Dragon clan could cultivate a Divine Dragon martial soul. It was impossible for the Divine Dragon or half-human clan to cultivate the Divine Dragon martial soul. And only a few from the half-human clan could practice the Flying Dragon martial soul or the Earth Dragon martial soul and cultivate it. Therefore, The power of Auxinian's martial soul was incredibly unusual. What a powerful martial soul! Her martial soul is as powerful as the martial soul of Monk at the fifth change of the Fish Dragon realm. Lu Fanshan's martial soul and the martial soul of Sacred Tree are both weaker than hers. The blue dragon, more than 100 meters long, was lying behind her. It had a giant dragon head, sharp claws and ferocious eyes. Every respect of it radiated a strong and unparalleled momentum. In the distance, Zai Yunxi and Zuo Quling were both shocked by the martial soul Auxinian unleashed. They retreated backwards. Xihai's eyes lit up. It's the Divine Dragon martial soul. No wonder Auxinian is called the genius of the Divine Dragon and half-human clan that only appears once in a blue moon. It's possible she could defeat Zhang Yuochen. The saint standing beside Xihai seemed to have reached his 30s. His face was pale and sallow. He said coldly to Xihai, "She can practice her martial soul into a level comparable to the martial soul of Monk at the fifth change of the Fish Dragon realm. It's really remarkable. When I was in the final state of the Heaven realm, my martial soul gained the power of the fourth change in the Fish Dragon realm and reached its limit." It's said that Zhang Yuochen's martial soul is also powerful. Whose martial soul is stronger? Xihai asked. They stopped talking and watched the battle. They wanted to see if Auxinian could force Zhang Yuochen to use all his strength. Traceless in the sky, Auxinian leapt up more than 33 meters. She held her sword with both hands and slashed ruthlessly to Zhang Yuochen. The blue water dragon patterned sword made a harsh sound and its blade lengthened almost 100 meters. The giant blade seemed ready to tear the earth apart. The giant blue dragon lying behind her also made a sudden attack. Its claw overlapped with the blade. The scene before Zhang Yuochen vanished. He heard the sound of waves, like a sea of water was crashing over him. A blue divine dragon was swimming in the water, brewing storms in rivers and seas. The dragon waved its claws to attack his head. Swish! Zhang Yuochen released his martial soul. His martial soul suspended above his head and mobilized the heaven and earth spiritual chi. The spiritual chi gathered into his martial soul. Soul-slaying sword. Zhang Yuochen had not practiced any ghost-level sword techniques, so he could only use a spiritual stage superior class sword technique. The 13 swords technique of soul chasing to defend against Auxinian's attack. Luckily, he had already practiced the 13 swords technique of soul chasing to the perfection of martial arts, so he did not take a beating on sword movement. Zhang Yuochen is using a spiritual stage superior class sword technique to defend against a ghost level inferior class sky sword technique. The two sword techniques are not on the same level at all, Xihai said. Yet before he finished speaking, Zhang Yuochen had already broken Auxinian's sword movement. Then he launched a head-on attack at Auxinian. Turning his sword, he attacked Auxinian's waist. Auxinian was surprised. She immediately erected her sword to block him. Glang! The clash of the two swords broke into energy ripples. They turned into chi billow and poured out in all directions. Auxinian flew back and fell to the ground. She continued to slide backwards, leaving a deep groove that stretched more than 33 meters. Everyone was stunned. The spiritual stage superior class 13 swords technique of soul chasing had broken the ghost level inferior class sky sword technique. It proved Zhang Yuochen's strength indeed exceeded Auxinian's. Zhang Yuoch can't be this strong just relying on the heart integrated into sword, Xihai exclaimed. Is Zhang Yuochen's martial soul stronger than Auxinian's? The man standing beside Xihai carefully observed Zhang Yuochen. I can't see through Zhang Yuochen's true cultivation. Xihai also shook his head. I can't see it either. He is so unfathomable in the heaven realm. If he breaks into the fish dragon realm, he will be even more incredible. As the two men discussed his abilities, Zhang Yuochen quickly caught up with Auxinian. He displayed 7 sword techniques simultaneously, giving her no opportunity to breathe. Auxinian could only see sword radiance so dazzling that she could not open her eyes. She could only rely on her spiritual power to feel his sword movement. Suddenly, Zhang Yuochen stopped his sword movement. His sword tip pierced through her celestial body shield and stopped in front of her heart. Auxinian was bound. Her body appeared to be sealed by the sword chi. She could not move. She still refused to admit that she had lost to Zhang Yuochen, so she took steps to quickly retreat back. The sword in Zhang Yuochen's hands was like a spiritual snake, always pointing at her heart. If he wanted to, he could use the sword at any time to penetrate her heart. In the end, Auk Xinyan realized the huge gap of power between her and Zhang Yuochen, and she stopped dodging. She sighed. I lost. I could only endure 9 techniques. Am I weaker than both the Orange Star Emissary and Lu Fanshan? Zhang Yuochen withdrew his sword. He realized that Auk Xinyan must have never failed. She also lacked control over her own volition, as she was extremely upset. When such a person failed, they were unlikely to bounce back. Zhang Yuochen was after all the group leader of the first group. He did not want to see a dimming genius, so he comforted her. Actually, your strength is not weaker than that of the Orange Star Emissary or Lu Fanshan. Your strength is stronger than theirs. But, I encountered something recently, so my sword technique and martial arts have improved since I fought with them. What Zhang Yuochen said was true. He wasn't lying to her. Zhang Yuochen's strength had increased considerably after drinking the blue sky herb tea.